Welcome. Embrace the shadows. When I first started talking to you, it was probably about, I don't know, it's got to be over 6 or 7 months ago. I hadn't just gotten to know you. I'd seen some of the promotions, and I started to see your name everywhere. Zwaremachine, Mach FoX, and then later on Fox Nova Project. And it took me a little bit to realize this was kind of the same, the same person doing all of these projects. And when I got to talking to you, I was like, wow, this is somebody that's been around for an awful long time, and a little bit similar to myself in some of the experiences back in the day, and I hear it come out in your music. So I'm really excited to have this conversation and learn about you and your bands and your bandmates, all your projects, and what drives you, because you've been doing this for a long time and you've certainly kept it up. So with all that, everybody, Mach FoX.
Thank you, Sean. Good to be here. Thanks for having me on your new interview segment program you're kicking off.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, and a big thanks to Chris EBM and EBM Worldwide for helping put this together. We've been wanting to do it for quite a while, and it's going to work out great, I think, with getting bands that need to be heard out there.
Yeah, he's been championing lots of bands, but he's been helpful to us for quite a while now.
Okay.
I remember him telling me about the Discord and asking, I was sending him promo, and he's asking if he can put it on Discord. And I'm like, yeah, let's get the word out there. That's really cool,
I'm getting a note that we're going to a little bit of echo on your side. I'm just going to try one really quick second. And
welcome to the machine with Live Evil Productions.
Yeah. The machine had a bit of a crap there at the start. I apologize, everybody. So
damn machines.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And they now rule our lives. So not to get us off
part of daily life, dealing with the machines.
Oh my God, is it ever? Have you noticed that?
Yeah. I'm forever troubleshooting. That's part of being in an electronic band. Is troubleshooting is like that's a big part of it.
Oh, isn't it? Oh, yep. Non-stop. And it's funny, we were talking about that a little bit when we first tried to come on, and it blew up. We were talking about what it was like back in the older days, going to do a sound and being these new types of bands back then, and bringing your bed tracks and your synths and so forth, and not having the whole band set up, and the sound guy kind of giving you this kind of crooked look.
Well, so even back then, I had a lot of vintage drum machines and synths, and I preferred backing tracks, because there's no fucking way I'm bringing an expensive vintage drum machine, to a club for a $50 gig.
Yeah,
it just didn't make any sense to me. So I was, recording my own backing tracks with programmed drums, and just like trying to get the sound guy to tweak the PA a little bit, front of house and monitors, so that I could hear that crack of the snare, just like there was a live drummer on stage. That was just always the battle.
Yeah.
I think things have come around, and it depends on the venues and what you're dealing with, but people are a lot better at doing it. This was, 15 years ago, trying to get that going. And if you're not traveling with your own sound guy and you're touring around, depending on the club, it was hit or miss. So
Right.
we brought our own stage monitor and did a lot on our end that we could, but that was always a challenge, getting that punch and that power behind it.
Yes. It was always myself. I actually, some of the first shows walked out with a, what do you call it? Not a VHS, beta. Were you guys doing the beta thing back then? Beta bed tracks?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have video tied with it, or were you just using the tape because it was a fatter tape?
It didn't skip.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to do it, and I mean that's like a good way. I've actually thought about using a VHS tape and a little bit for the sound, but also so there would, and I'm talking 15 years ago, but I was hauling around heavy CRT monitors, and I would play a tape along, just kind of it wasn't a loop because it would end eventually, but it was just a long VHS tape of some visuals for Mach FoX way back in the day.
Nice.
And when I was doing that originally too, that was another thing. I was trying to use a mini disc, not realizing that was adding like a terrible amount of compression, and just, so, I can't blame the sound guys. I didn't really know how to pull it together on my end either. I was just like, trying to get a drum machine sound without bringing my drum machine and dealing with all the outputs.
Yeah. No, that's it. And for a while it was beta, and then did you guys move to the little DAT tapes, the mini digital audio tapes?
Dude, you were way more pro and advanced, and had more money than I had. Because no, I never went that route. Eventually I was bringing hardware sequencers. By the time I was doing Zwaremachine, and that's kind of goes back to the whole name of Zwar, meaning heavy.
Yeah.
Zware.
Mm-hmm.
I was bringing a lot of heavy equipment. Like there was a lot of sequencers, and it was all hardware for a while with Zwaremachine.
Oh, wow.
So that was tough. And yeah, the heavy equipment fit the band a lot. The name fit the band in those days.
Yeah, no doubt. That was a lot to lug around. So not only you couldn't fit all your stuff into a little tiny van like a 3-piece or a 4-piece rock act.
It was I packed it up in cases. We got there, but it was a heavy case with a lot of shit pre-plugged in, already routed. And the advantage of hardware, as you probably know, was that I could send the drums out separate. Even back in the mini disc days, I was sending left and right mono of synth and drum machines, at least, so the front of house guy had a little bit something to work with. But and then I've talked to people too who tell me they're just using a mastered stereo track, and they're telling me that it sounds great, but then you're leaving it up to the venue more, and the front of house guy to he's kind of handcuffed. So I always like doing the drums and synth separate for sequencers, at least. So there's a little separation there.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me, just because not every room's the same shape once you get there.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, and then ideally, the kick could have been separate, but I tried to mix the kick relative to how I wanted my overall drums. I didn't want random sound guys having too much say in the production of my live sound. I wanted them just to be able to, have a fader for the drums, a fader for the synths, and then work the rest around it.
Yep, that makes sense.
I was particular about what I was trying to do in the world of sound I was trying to create.
Well, it was quite the phenomenon when that first started happening, right?
Well, I think that, and that goes back to the 80s. The original EBM and industrial acts were doing a lot of that, and I don't know how, if they were bringing a mixer, sub-mixing, or now some of the bigger acts obviously had their own sound tech, so that if I had that luxury, I would things would be a bit different too for the live show. I'm
Yeah.
kind of, especially at this point, I'm looking
this
at,
point.
well, yeah, things have changed in how I present the band, but
Mhm.
since we have a couple live guys in the band,
Yeah.
it's just a little bit different now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everything evolves, right? And that's the thing is, back then it was scrounging for ideas on how to make what happened in your rehearsal space happen on a stage or in your little home studio. And there's a lot more options now, that's for sure. Technology.
Yeah, and a lot of bands. Yeah, a lot of bands were more experimental with their sound live probably than maybe the recorded version, or vice versa. Like with Zwaremachine, I really wanted. On the first album, I worked really hard to play the songs out live and arrange them live and decide what was going to be on the album, and then record the album like we would perform it live. I wanted them to be very similar. Whereas a lot of bands, want them to be different, or that's not a focus. But I really had it in my head that I wanted the record to sound like we would sound live.
That's something that's missed, I think, that ability to do that. But I was going to ask, because you touched on something there, and that creative side, that musicians and bands and so forth were almost out of necessity becoming more creative to figure out ways to accomplish something that might now seem like a second thought. Just do this. But at that point, this was a long drawn out process that had to be planned out and whatever. And maybe you get one take or one sound, and whether it be recording or playing live or anything like that. Do you think having easy access to, I don't know if we'll say, end quote, cool things or cool sounds is taking some of that real visceral creativity out of that process?
Well, I think now we have a lot of affordable tools to make live shows with electronics and sequencers and tracks. That can all happen well now. I think it was way more challenging 25, 30 years ago. I don't know. One thing I just want to say about that is a battle that I always had was monitoring, getting these rock clubs to re-EQ the house, if not the front of house, at least the monitors, so that you could pound a drum machine through there. So the bass player and I could keep a beat, play along to it.
Yeah.
Whereas, my solution was just to bring my own stage monitor. And even now, as a backline for Zwaremachine, I request a second bass amp, just to, or, it could be a guitar amp if it had to be, but I usually go for the bass amp so we can run our drums through there so that everyone on stage, has that a little bit behind you also.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Or I'll do a crosswash depending on the stage, but then it just has that feel too. And it really it boosts your performance rather than listening for that tiny little drum machine in a front of house monitor that might not be, have the amp behind it.
Yeah, and you don't get any of that push. Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, these aren't things that are new to anyone who's tried playing electronic music live or a hybrid kind of band. But yeah, when you get guitars and live drums up there with your electronics, monitoring is a very important issue you're going to have to deal with. And not everyone has done this yet, but for those that do it, they know the battle is there. Yeah,
and it's funny because you'll hear the occasional person, kind of do a bit of a slag while, they have these things playing, and so, but you know what? They don't realize exactly how hard it is and how much talent it takes to actually do that, to play in a hybrid situation with other musicians and with equipment and machines and bring it all together, because there's exactly what they're kind of on about is actually what makes it very difficult, because you can't forget your part and just kind of come back and kind of be wherever. If you're doing, if you're a percussion, playing percussion, and you're playing in time with sequences and synths and so forth, right? That's
Yep.
it's people don't realize that. Have you found that people just don't kind of click into how hard that is?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I've come from a punk rock and guitar background. I played guitar forever in bands, and then I kind of was getting into drum machines and sequencers the whole time too. But you know, I feel like I've been battling that long enough. I don't really get it too much from people.
Yeah.
Like I say, early on, people didn't understand what I was doing with my drum machine tracks and synth tracks, and then playing with some live musicians. You know, that was, I wasn't the first to do it, but when I was doing it in the Twin Cities here in Minnesota, where I'm from, all the smaller clubs I was playing, not many, there was like a handful of people doing it at the time. So for the front of house sound guys, who many of them were my friends, but they had never seen that kind of setup come through yet.
Right.
So, you know, hopefully I helped them along, because a lot of bands started doing that and still do. So,
oh, of course. Yeah.
I don't run into that. I don't run into that hardly at all anywhere more, where people kind of scratch their head and say, what is this? You know, and people have seen it enough now.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. I noticed you touched on the punk, and I can't, being someone that has an affinity from my younger years. I'm very curious. You were playing in some punk bands and so forth. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was, I mean, pretty much right in high school. You know, when I was about 17, I started playing, you know, in the basement, in the garage, and I was drawn to bands like the Dead Kennedys, the Clash, Black Flag was a huge favorite.
Right.
So I didn't think to like learn other people's music. I just like started writing my own music. You know, my dad mentioned one time, he's like, well, maybe you could, you know, learn how to play other people's music and make some money and then branch out in your own. And I just wasn't good enough. Honestly, you know, I couldn't figure out other people's music at that point, but I could play rough versions of a few cover songs, you know, in a punk style.
Right.
Like your Ramones, you know, we'd just Ramone them up a little bit, or we'd rough them up a little bit and play a fast version of a rock song or something.
Nice.
Yeah, that was like, geez, you know, through most of my 20s, that's the kind of music, pop punk and punk bands and alternate, you know, later on it became more alternative guitar rock style stuff, and then bringing in some keyboards and stuff. And but yeah, the punk stuff really informed me and opened my eyes a lot. The lyrics, that was where I got a lot of my views and ideas from. And still to this day, bands like the Dead Kennedys, that's what I think about lyrically. I mean, how can I inform someone? Maybe, you know, I'm not talking about political leaders or things of the moment so much, but I'm trying to open eyes. You know, I've covered all kinds of, you know, government kind of things and big pharma and all kinds of stuff in past Mach FoX songs and in my writing. There's not a lot of love songs with Zwaremachine and Mach FoX. It's
really
it's just not. I want people to be in a sci-fi horror world when they're listening to us. I want to take them somewhere, you know, not a big grandiose, oh, we're going to take this musical journey, but definitely like get out of your daily clothes and you know, live in this world with us.
Hey, we are living in a sci-fi horror movie, aren't we?
True. This stuff was like, it was farther off. Now we're there, and it's not as cool. Like
no,
it was
suddenly.
It was like when it was fantasy.
Yeah,
it was like, oh yeah, this scary fantasy in the future. Now we're actually there, and it's terrifying. So I don't know. I don't know how to. I don't know how to address that anymore.
It's difficult to process, right? It's like, oh
yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it, I guess, but here we are.
Here we are. Well, maybe a bit faster than we thought, you know. It was supposed
Definitely.
to be.
I mean, the Zwaremachine Conquest 3000, that was it was a concept album set in the year 3000. And then my joke always with that is, yeah, like we'd ever make it to the year 3000. You know, that's not going to happen. I don't see how that's going to happen.
Valid.
At least on this planet.
Yeah. Very true. So you went through that all those stages and learning, and then you've did we miss? I was reading and so forth in your bios, because I do read them. I didn't realize that the Mach FoX project started so long ago. Was it 2005?
Yeah, that was about 2005. The first record came out, and it wasn't that I didn't like being in bands and like voting on things and working as a group. There's very special things that can happen in that too. I just found I wanted to do something, and the people that I had been playing music with, they didn't have that same interest to work with drum machines, and my programming was pretty bad too. So I mean, I just kind of had to try my own thing because I knew it could be done. I didn't think to myself, oh, I'm going to be a one-man band, but it just became necessity. And you know, who else is going to like sit through this stuff with me? While I learned how it was a learning process, you know. Yes. So I ended up with some good songs, and you know, and sequencers. I love to mess around with sequencers and drum machines, but it took a lot of trial and error and a lot of bad programming to get 10 good songs to put out the first Mach FoX album.
Right.
And then it was even kind of all over the place. But once the album came out, I really wanted to play live. So I had to put together a band.
Right.
And so Mach FoX started as a solo project, but I've always had a band performing live.
Yeah. And having a band performing live is critical for energy, right?
Yeah. Well, and I should go back a little bit. I did do solo Mach FoX gigs. I've done solo Zwaremachine gigs, but those are sometimes the gigs out of necessity where I guess when I started Mach FoX, I did do solo gigs, but I was trying to bring lights and visuals and do a whole big performance, you know, get costumes, just give it a little more than just one guy standing up there hunched over a table kind of performance.
That makes sense. Sorry, my video camera went a little wonky there.
I was loving it. It was glitching out like crazy. I was loving it.
It would have been a great video. It would be a good intro for
I know how to do that. I'm also a VJ, so I can make that happen.
There you go.
Do that.
There you go.
We'll get that.
So Mach FoX has been I guess it seems like it's been the kind of the tether down the center with your other projects that have come, being Zwaremachine and now Fox Nova project. And you've brought on
and I mean that even this. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. And you brought on some excellent musicians to help you and play those and bring some of their own flavor.
Yeah, now D-Bot, he's joined Mach FoX band in like 2006. We had in the Twin Cities here, we had an electropunk scene, and it was a lot of bands with hybrid setups, like we were talking about electronics and guitars and drums and drum machines and synthesizers. So we had our electropunk scene, and a lot of the people in a lot of the bands would kind of like support each other's bands for the live shows. So we had, you know, I had a couple members from other bands in with Mach FoX. I played in in D-Bot, and Adam 01 used to be the the guitar player in Mach FoX, he played synth in an early version of Zwaremachine also. But so we were just like helping each other out to support for the live acts.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, D-Bot's been with me since 2006. Great guy, really melodic in his writing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of what you hear on Conquest 3000 and the Mach FoX Hollow Moons EP is that's all D-Bot doing the instrumental tracks on a lot of that stuff.
Oh, wow.
For Zwaremachine, we work with some producers, but it's pretty much the demos that him and I did for the Hollow Moons EP.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't change much of that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Whereas for the Zwaremachine album, we changed a lot of we kept the melodies, but we changed a lot of the instrumentation.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Now, I think, because we're flipping back and forth in some of these, and for anybody that's watching that maybe is familiar with one and maybe not others, I don't know why you wouldn't, but I think maybe we should watch a video and kind of go down one of the paths first, or one of the projects. What would you like to start off with? You want to start off with the Mach FoX because that's the kind of the center of it, or do you want to start off with some Parasol?
Yeah.
Okay. Right on. Okay, so we're going to take you through. This is Mach FoX, Hollow Moons. Right on. And I think a lot of people will say that that's a killer song. Is actually one of my favorites. I'm sure everybody will join me in that. But I've always wanted to, and now I get the chance to. Tell me about Hollow Moons.
Well, just a little background on the song itself before we get into the lyrics. This is one. So D-Bot, when we started working on the second Zwaremachine album, I had a bunch of stuff, but I felt like it was going to be just like the first album. You know, like that's the road I was going down, where I was going to make the first album again. And I really had it in my head that we were unknown band, or unknown enough that we could really do whatever we want. You know, it didn't have to be EBM industrial. I kind of thought, you know, maybe a little more future pop, or just be open to some different styles, you know. So I asked D-Bot, the bass player, I said, do you have, because he's got other musical projects and he does all his own music for his projects. So I asked him, I said, do you have any demos that we could like look at for Zwaremachine? And he started giving me these tracks, and they were fully fleshed out. You know, there were arrangements, there was choruses and verses, and they all had these titles too. Like, I think this was probably called Hollow Moon. So they all had these, you know, like Quasar, like the whole Mach FoX EP, those are outtakes from his demos, but all of them had these, I'd call them sci-fi titles already, you know, when he gave me the demos. So I started thinking about how I could weave that into a storyline for a concept album, because he basically gave it all to me and said, here's some stuff, you can choose what you want. And yeah, they had such killer cool titles that this became the song where the lyrics just tell the story about how the people with money have left the planet. They're living in these luxurious hollow moons, you know, manufactured moons off of Earth. And they're just living, it's all green and lush and, you know, everything you could want, while the rest of us on Earth are like dying from the UV radiation, the lack of anything, food or, you know, clean water. So that's what that is. And the thing with Mach FoX is I allow myself to be a little more melodic. So I've been telling people that's the melodic side of Zwaremachine, especially since all three of us played on the Mach FoX tracks, and they were outtakes from the Zwaremachine album. So yeah, that's Hollow Moons. But I gotta say, D-Bot, like that piano intro and everything, he creates such a mood and a vibe that it's really fun to get a track like that and say, okay, this is, you know, this was given to me to, you know, add my layer onto it.
Yeah, it evokes. That's why I've been wanting to ask, because it evokes in there, and there's a quality in there. And I've wanted to ask, because there's so much kind of emotion in it. It seemed like there's something there that you're saying, because there's a real passion in it, and that doesn't happen all the time with music. So I was really curious what you visualize when when you're saying Hollow Moons. And it sounds
and
like
I mean that just it became its own little world too, with the whole concept album thing. And I had performed again, like I was saying, I always would put a band together, but I did these songs, you know, the 5 songs that ended up being on Conquest 3000 that D-Bot worked with on me, or gave me the demos for, and the 5 songs from the Hollow Moons EP, I performed that live as a Mach FoX set a couple times, just so I could kind of feel out like how are these working live, and what do I want to do. And that kind of was like that kind of like showed me too, well, some of these songs could be Zwaremachine, but definitely this couldn't be Zwaremachine. It's not. With Zwaremachine, anything we put on an album, we would want to play live as a band. And these these are too melodic. They don't have the angst and the Zwaremachine vibes. So I kind of could tell when I was performing these live a couple times that they just weren't Zwaremachine material. But I really did love the drama and all the melodic stuff going on. So we kind of kept them off the album with the intention of releasing them later.
Yeah. It's it's a powerful song. It's thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for it's good to get feedback on it too, because
it's
I can love something, but that doesn't mean anyone's going to connect with it.
I'm going to say it's a safe bet that anybody that hears that's going to they're going to connect with that. I think there's just a tone to it. Yeah. And it leads me to wonder, there's, when I listen to, say, the three projects, Fox Nova Project, Zwaremachine, and Mach FoX, the voice can be similar sometimes, but it's almost like the character, the person, the lead, front person is different. Do you feel different because I know performing is critical to you. That's your love, your big passion is performing. Do you feel different when you're in those shoes?
That's a good point, because I was hoping, a goal of mine is I want people to know when they hear Zwaremachine that it's Zwaremachine. I think anyone with their project wants that kind of level of recognition, but I kind of thought people would know that it was me. But I get what you're saying about the character, because I do take that on, especially with Zwaremachine. There's a bit of a headspace I put myself in when I'm performing that stuff. And there's a lot of angst and energy and, maybe some bitterness, maybe some optimism. But yeah, the Mach FoX project has some melody and drama in it. And a lot of that with Hollow Moons, that's Dave, that's D-Bot, the bass player, brought all that. I just embraced it because I like that too. But yeah, it's definitely, and with Fox Nova Project too, that's got this menacing vibe. So and the album, it's called The Haunted, and it's songs about prey and predator and that whole relationship. And so I was trying to be like, that was yet another character that I don't feel like was Mach FoX or Zwaremachine. I was trying to make that its own thing. Also, I really liked working on that because it was a cool outlet, but it still felt like me.
Yes.
I'm not like acting into a different character. I'm like, it's a different part of me that is me.
Exactly. So it's highlighting some other part that maybe doesn't come out all the time, but it's a bit of an outlet out to because it seems the Mach
because with Zwaremachine
seems introspective.
And with Zwaremachine for sure, and with Zwaremachine I really try to focus on doing a thing that we can be known for, and that's that minimal hypnotic industrial body music, I call it. And we started getting away from that on the second album, but one way I was able to stay true to that description was a lot of the vocals and lyrics are kind of looped and repetitive. The music has expanded, I feel like, from the first album to the second album, with D-Bot doing the writing and working with other producers too. I worked with two producers on Conquest 3000. So there was more people involved in every facet of how it happened, except for maybe the vocals. I still like to produce my own vocals and do all the writing there, but.
And the producers, did they, how do you feel about that? Some people, and if it's not comfortable, then that's fine too. But because I know sometimes when people work with producers, they end up not sure. They're not sure because it was their baby, and now it's not quite like it was, and and sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's like, oh, and then it's like, well, wow, right? It depends. How did you feel about that?
I think it was more of a wow moment with the songs that D-Bot gave me demos for that became songs on Conquest 3000. I worked with Plankton. He's a Swedish producer. Now I've been working with him. He's been remixing and producing Mach FoX tracks with me since maybe 2007. So we have a great relationship, and what he brings is like just I don't know if it's a European vibe or a Swedish vibe or whatever he's doing. He picks sounds that I would never pick.
Okay.
But my jaw always kind of drops. I'm always very pleased with the work he does. So
that's awesome.
I had asked him, I said, let's work on this next album together. Sort of, I approached it and I said, I'm going to give you the demos and just treat it like a remix, just rework the instrumental tracks, use my vocal as a guide, and then we'll touch up the vocal if we need to. And I had always intended on recutting the vocals in the studio where I mixed it, but the baked in effects I used and everything, the way I produced it, I just knew it was going to be painful to recreate that again in a new recording session. Yeah, I had done so many submixes, and just some of the stuff I left raw and ugly on purpose. And I'm like, what if I lose that? I mean, I even we tried one song with my studio engineer, and, he set everything up. And I'm like, after a day of doing it, I said, basically, I'm going to have to just reproduce all this if we go this route. Let's just make the demo vocals work.
Yeah.
And we were able to touch those up enough. I didn't re-record much of anything, but I was able to clean it up and give them something that we could use for the album. So working with Plankton has always been easy. And I think he knew too, when he gave me the tracks back, some things weren't arranged exactly like for a song, and I could just chop, move, edit on the grid like I love to do, and reassemble like the vibe of what he gave me into something that worked for me.
Right.
So knowing that I had the final say and could kind of do it, it wasn't like a producer lording over you and saying I'm the producer. I never had to deal with anything like that. So that made it a great thing. Now I will say the one thing is I like to move faster than most people I work with. So of course, we can do a lot with sending files back and forth, but then again, he's on his own time and I'm not paying him tons of money to like crack the whip on him. So I had to be patient. That was the hard part about working with a producer or a mixer or anyone else is, everyone has their own projects, their own life, even if it's outside of music, and you just have to deal with things at a different pace.
It's true.
And I just want to mention there was the other producer who while things were taking a long time to work with Plankton, sending tracks back and forth, getting tracks together. I was lucky enough to meet Darren Corey. Now he's a producer in Ireland, and he was looking for someone to just cut some vocals for some EBM Nitzer Ebb style sequences he was working on.
Yeah.
And he sent me a couple things, and I said, I can kind of cop someone else's style, but I said, I'd much rather, I like these, can I do me on them, be myself and see what you think. And I don't know that he was like loving what I gave him back vocally, but he was cool to work with in the sense that he just let me run with it and make it my own. So I didn't have the bass player and the drummer on these, but we released it as Zwaremachine because I did the vocals and we produced it together, Darren Corey and I. So when the songs that ended up on Hollow Moons became outtakes from the Zwaremachine album, then I was down to like 5 songs instead of 10 songs. So I was like, well, why don't we get bass and drums from the live band? Because those guys expressed interest. They said they liked that EP. They said they wanted to play some of those live. So I was like, okay, if they're into it, let's get them on it, get their parts on it, and have that be the other half of the album. And I still call it a concept album, but those 5 songs from the Ripping at the Fabric EP, those are set in today's day, not the year 3000.
Gotcha.
So those International Hero, Ripping
Mhm.
at the Fabric, those are all, you know, the trials and tribulations and frustrations of today. And that's where you hear some of that angst.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
More
Yep.
so, but in the other songs on Conquest 3000, it's more frustration. You know, like the lyrics in Conquest 3000, we could have been something else, but you chose corporate wealth. It's past. I've given up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in that story, in that part of the story, it's all done. The earth is ruined. There's no going back.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in International Hero, that's still someone fighting for today.
Right. That makes sense.
With some hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to have a little bit of that left. A little bit. So
Yeah,
why don't
there's
we?
a little.
Yeah, a little bit. It's what gets us through the day. Why don't we take a listen to some Zwaremachine, and we'll watch the Parasol video, and give everybody a taste. Hey, there's Scott Durant. How you doing, Scotty? All right, let's bring up Parasol. Hey, awesome. So that tune, I love the combination there, the EBM and the funk. It's just
Cool.
it's an earworm. You can't help it. You want to wiggle.
Well, it's a taste thing. Not everyone loves that funk bass, and not everyone likes, some people want that straight EBM.
Yeah.
But I'm from the Midwest US, and we had wax tracks when I was growing up. So I guess that combination of hybrid, rock, funk, drum machines, sex, drugs, rock and roll, it was all there on a lot of that wax track stuff,
That's
so
right.
to me it's never a problem to kind of do things differently. I have a live bass player in the band, and in the Mach FoX days we started doing some of that disco funk octave stuff, and he just really got into it. Then he came more from maybe a progressive and metal and black metal kind of upbringing, or his earlier influences. But
Really,
having him show up at my house with a Bootsy Collins t-shirt, tie-dyed Bootsy Collins t-shirt, I was like, okay, awesome. This guy's, he like came around, and I think it's fun for him to play and challenging. So, and I just want to say that video too, Kitty in Poet NWC, she manages the band and does the booking for the band. Okay. She also makes a lot of our promo and our videos. So she put that together. Part of fabulous. Part of it's from a live stream in down here where I am at the Fox Den. And then, we talked about some other things we'd like to see in the video, and we had to reuse some footage from another video we did, but we were able to color it differently. And, that's been one thing with the pandemic. Our drummer lives in the Netherlands, Dine Officier's in the Netherlands, and D-Bot and I are in the Twin Cities. So, sometimes when we're trying to do a video, we'll look for locations that can kind of be similar. We'll never be in the same shot, but maybe we can pull it off where you think it's a cohesive filming set kind of thing. And I got to give her credit for all the videos she makes and the cool stuff she does for the band and stuff like that. And I also want to say that one was one of the last songs we added to the album.
Oh, okay.
It does have a bit of that. It could have easily been a little bit more in the Hollow Moons camp, right? Where it was a little more singy. There's a little bit more singing in the melody, and we were like trying to decide, and in the end, I just felt, this is something I would want to play live, and I'm really happy we didn't consider it like a single or anything like that, but a lot of DJs who play the harsher aggro tech stuff, who I never thought would touch this, liked it and started playing. I've seen a lot of DJs play this, so it's one of those that kind of snuck up on me. Like I just thought, well, it's different than the other songs on the album, and maybe that's the special thing about it. It's hard for me to say what people like about it.
It's got a lot of flavors in there that are really just instant appealing, right? Like it has a bit of that throwback, original EBM thing. It's got the funk, but it's also got the flow in your lyrics. It just really works well with whatever decision you landed on with how you were delivering the lyrics. Amazing. It's cool. Just really, really natural. Great rhythm. Love it.
Well, and like I said, we were trying to do, when I was doing these, as considering them demos, I was not trying to be Zwaremachine. I was thinking we were going to be future pop, or I was like, I was stubborn, and I was saying we can do whatever we want. It's our band, people aren't going to tell us we're EBM or industrial. We'll be synth pop if we want. Yeah. Now Kitty, the band manager, we talked about this. She's like, well, steer a little. She helped steer it in a focused direction, and that was great because, as you can tell from my various projects, I do have an open range of music that I'm interested in. So, it may always have a darker theme and maybe me singing, but, I don't always want to sing a monotone monster voice. and
Right.
ugly style, like in that's what I call Zwaremachine's kind of ugly vocals, which fits the band well. But yeah, Parasol, that was just, I was singing, I was being a little more myself and a little more melodic. But yeah, everything about it felt right for the band, and that will be in our live set for sure.
Oh, well, I hope so. That's going to be that's going to be a boogie down smash at a live show for sure. For sure. I love it. So we jump from, Mach FoX to Zwaremachine, and then Fox Nova project, which I'm a bit more familiar with because I did a bit of had a little fun with one of your tracks on there. Which was
thank you for the remix.
Hey, no worries. It was my pleasure. It was a lot of fun. And there again, as we were saying earlier, it's a whole new sound. What is Fox Nova project?
That's myself and Craig Saunders from Nova State Machine, and his older band, and how I know of him was Nova Kill. Okay. Now they just released some new music too that is worth checking out. So, but he remixes and he has a lot of projects going. He just, he keeps busy producing music. But I really liked Nova Kill when I first heard him years and years ago. Okay, they had an album out that I really liked, and yeah, I saw his name on Facebook, and I was like, I'm just gonna say hi to this guy and tell him, I liked his band. And we got to talking. I saw he was remixing. So he was working on a remix for Zwaremachine, I believe. And he sent me an alternate version. He said, well, here's a track. The lyrics, I dropped them on there for the remix. It fits. And I said, well, this is really cool. But instead of a remix, can I recut original vocals to this? I said, this is a cool song. I can't remember. It ended up on the EP we made. But yeah, it just had a menacing vibe. It felt cool, and it wasn't Zwaremachine, but I felt like I could fit in. So he sent some more songs, and we quickly had an EP. I mean, we had enough for a full length, but I didn't want to overwhelm him because I knew he had other commitments and projects. And we talked about it too. We said, well, let's do an EP. We'll release it ourselves, see how it goes, and then think about doing a physical product, a limited CD or cassette. So I've been talking to some labels about how to release that, maybe in 2023 that would come out. Oh, nice. Some kind of either a full length or an EP with bonus tracks, bonus
tracks and so forth.
Yeah, that's been fun to work on with him. Basically also because he does what he does, I do what I do. We don't mess with each other's stuff too much. Right. And it just seemed to fit together not flawlessly, very easily. Right. And that's, painlessly, I should say. It was very easy to work with him on this stuff.
Yeah. It's that's pretty special when it comes to a collab. Yeah. Being able to just where it just it just snaps, clicks. Yeah.
Well, and I think he was playing like a distorted bass and stuff. So he was doing some stuff that he doesn't normally do in his EBM projects. And I was doing some stuff. I even brought out my guitar again, which I had been in the back of my head for new Zwaremachine stuff, but I wasn't going to bring it live and tune it and hassle with all that. I was going to sample it, just so we had some guitar riffs. But honestly, I'm not even the guy who's probably going to do that if we do it. I know some other guitar players, like I know you had Sin from Mal's Machine on. I've been working with him a little bit on some songs. He played guitar on our Effigy cover, our Ministry cover. Yeah. So I know some guitar players who are way better than I am at getting a good tone and good riffage. So but yeah, with Fox Nova Project, I got out the modular and the guitar and added a little layer here and there, and it was just really fun. And I think maybe he got a kick out of that too, just doing something that isn't normally the style we work in exactly.
Well, I think there's a lot to be said for that, because it certainly captures something there. Again, that's what I was really impressed, because projects frequently, they bleed, or they can bleed. Sure. And these are really unique. They all have their own unique take and vibe, and I really enjoy that. And the Fox Nova project has this whole kind of unique alternative kind of sound, right? Like that alternative with the rocky kind of sound. I thought it was great. The great way it was mixed in.
Well, thank you. We've been describing it as post-industrial, post-punk, post-EBM, post everything, because I don't really know what it is. It's a little sludgy. I wouldn't call it doom rock at all.
No,
but
not at all.
It had some elements of that. Yeah.
That's what I found interesting, because it in essence, it's new. There's nothing else that's sounding like it. That's what's really cool.
That's kind of what I thought. And that's why I just don't want to let it fall by the wayside as a digital release. I want to do a physical version of it and like build it up more. I think we have, I mean, I would call it our best song in the sense that it has more of a chorus hook, so maybe it'll be our most successful song or something, but that's one that I'm mixing right now that we haven't released yet or anything. That didn't make it wasn't ready for the EP. I thought maybe if we got it ready, we'd knock another song off of there, but I think that's just going to be added to the physical release or as a digital bonus track at some point.
Okay. Nice.
But yeah, that was an exciting project for me because it was, like I say, it was easy to do, not a lot of effort. It wasn't painful to work on, and it just came together, and I really thought it was a bit unique.
It was. I thought I was like, that's one of the reasons I was really excited to remix it, because it was this whole new sound to work with, right? It wasn't you couldn't kind of template that. Oh, well, this is that.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was great. That's the stuff I love. It's when you hear musicians that are just kind of letting, whatever it is that came out, that's what we are. That's
sure. Well, and the tempos, I think the tempos are a bit pretty slow on that stuff too, if I recall. And that was one, I know we're jumping around a lot, but that's kind of what I do.
Yeah. Sure.
I just want to say
awesome.
with the Conquest 3000, the Zwaremachine album, all those tempos jumped up from the first album was really slow. Be a Light, that was kind of slower tempos. These jumped up to like 130, 135. So it's just banging. So I think our live set too is going to be a high level of energy.
Right.
We'll have to pace it a bit probably because we haven't been playing enough to be totally in top form, but by the time we play live again, we'll be ready. But
nice.
I'm interested in how that's going to work out with those tempos.
Yeah. That's kind of cool.
And like I was saying, the Fox Nova project is slower, sludgier, doomier.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, actually, I think we'll take a quick listen to Fox Nova. Then I want to kind of get back and find out about what you're planning in terms of shows for the coming year as things start to open up. Let's see here. We're going to go over to Fox Nova, and I think we're going to play Sound Off. Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, are we muted when you were doing the videos?
I don't know. Because normally I would say no, but
That's why I was being quiet. But I was just gonna say, so that logo too, that came from I was trying to show Craig does a lot of the graphic design. I was just trying to show him like an idea for a logo I had, and it's a backwards F and then an N and a P. You probably maybe knew that, but he took my drawing and just kind of like graphicked it up. So I just thought that was funny. Oh, yeah.
I love that last little riff there. That was that was pretty fat. That little riff. You know, yeah, that driving percussion track you were just talking, wax tracks. Man, that absolutely takes
Cool.
you to that.
Well, and I was talking about the slower tempos and the doomy slow tempos of Fox Nova Project, but that one it isn't that.
No.
That one was our EBM track.
Yeah, yeah.
That one goes a little bit,
It
pushes it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. It picks it up, picks up pace a bit, but it pounds, eh? It
yeah,
really pounds.
That was all Craig on the instrumental there. I can't remember which songs. I think there's one song we both played guitar on, but I think I played guitar on most of the tracks, but I'd have to hear it again to try to pick out my part because I can't even remember. It happened so fast, we just blasted that out.
It's I love it. That's really cool, because that brings me to that whole wax tracks pounding era. So I better get off that, or I'll just keep going on. I'll keep going on about wax tracks all
No,
night.
that's a huge influence for me. That's a lot of. I'm glad, when we first met, we talked about a lot of the punk and a lot of the even like the alternative rock bands and
Yeah.
some of the Canadian scene. And yeah, I just have a very, as I learned you do, a varied musical taste, as most people do. I mean,
Yeah.
hardly anyone's like so narrow in their musical taste these days, because you can check it all out and there's a lot of talent everywhere. But I've always been open to a lot of different kinds of music. Like I say, with Zwaremachine, I want to focus something. I don't want it to be all over the map.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's sometimes you just gotta kind of keep it there for the people that want to go out and see that show, right? So.
But Wax Tracks will forever be all sight as an influence, and all the ministry side projects, all that stuff is cool.
Absolutely. For us, I think that's a absolute bedrock, right? I can't speak for for others. It's bedrock. As this year, it seems like there might be some concert opportunities starting to open up and actually happen, and not just get announced. They actually happen. What's your schedule? What are the big things you're looking forward to?
We're actually playing a Sinners Day festival in Belgium with Ministry.
Oh wow!
And so we'll be earlier on. We're not the direct support, but I'm pretty happy about how that came together. It's a really great festival in Belgium. And that's in October of 2022.
Okay.
So yeah, this whole time, the last time the band played as a trio, the bass player and I have been doing some live streams from my place, but the last time we played live in front of a crowd as a trio was October of 2019, and that was a gig in Germany.
Okay.
So I was back in January 2020 before the pandemic really hit, and I recorded the drummer, Dine Officer, for the tracks that would become Conquest 3000. And really, since then, we haven't been able to play any gigs, as hardly anyone has. And so we kept pumping out the videos and new, some singles and different stuff here and there and all the side project stuff. But we really were holding our breath to try to book to play again. We've had some Dine Officers battled leukemia. Now he's on the other side of that now and coming out well with it. So we plan to start booking shows and playing live, but we can't, besides his health issues, we can't just book things and have them be canceled. There's too many flights involved and
the organization.
It's just it's too much and the money involved. So we've been kind of waiting. So we finally felt like it's time to take a chance. It's 50-50 in my head if the gig's going to even happen. But we booked 2 shows right around then. We're going to play 2 shows in October in Europe. One will be in the Netherlands and one will be at this festival in Belgium. And we've looked at some other dates, but we're kind of holding off right now. We want to wait till the summer, see where the world's at.
See if everything kind of holds the trajectory.
Yeah. And I mean, things can change so quickly anyways. I mean, as it is, I waited to go to the Netherlands to visit Dine Officer and Kitty. I waited until around the holidays of 2021. And I went there for 5 weeks to hang out, and it's within the week I got there, things were restricted again because of the new variant of COVID and stuff. So, it just goes to show you can make plans, but it was hard enough to tour as a band before when you could control, it was all just up to you. How much money do you want to spend? How hard do you want to work? Where do you want to go?
Yeah.
I mean, it was hard to do then. Now there's things out of our control that could shut us down or cancel gigs. So, I feel bad for all the bands who were relying on those live gigs. We were just kind of getting that rolling, You know, in 2019, we really started focusing on Europe. A lot of good things were happening. We were able to book shows. We were building a following. You know, people were like knowing the band. You know, like you said, you started seeing the name around.
Yeah,
it was a thing. So I feel like we've kind of tried to keep that going the best we can. But being that I really love playing live, and that's why I have the band, it's been hard to sit on my hands for 2 years.
No doubt.
You know, and there's been a lot going on behind the scenes too, like I mentioned, but we're ready to play, you know, and I think the world's ready for us. So
nice.
We can't wait to get on stage again.
And well, I know people seem to really like this question. So what was your favorite show to do so far of the shows that Zwaremachine did?
October 19th at the Autumn Moon Festival in Germany in 2019. Okay. I believe it was October 19th. That was I had done shows with Zwaremachine solo. I've done shows with D-Bot, the bass player, and I've done shows with Dying Officer and I as a duo. And that was the first time we were together, the three of us on stage. And like, I've told this story a bunch of times. I looked to one side and Dave's like banging his head, slapping away on the bass. I looked to the other side and Dying Officer is pounding the hell out of his drum and mouthing the words. He knows all the words to the songs. So that made my day. You know, that was the gig that I live for. That's right, the dream I have, to recreate that. Yeah. Right there. That was just something I mean, there's been other gigs with other bands, but this was the most fun that I've had in a long time. And it was hard to have that shut down so quickly. Right when I felt like, you know, these were the guys who need to be in this band with me. And I never expected, like, Zwaremachine was always a 3-piece, and I've always had like an electronic drummer and a synth player along with me. And some other different combinations, but that was always the core sounds. I never expected to have a guy slapping funk bass and a guy playing a big, you know, surdo drum as my live band, but somehow it came together, and it made the album sound too for Conquest 3000. A lot of what I hear there is what those guys are bringing, which I didn't have on the first album. So that's a really special thing to play with those guys. I just love it.
Now you mentioned something there, the surdo drum. But for anybody that maybe doesn't know what that is, what is that? What is that? Your drummer plays a special drum. I believe
it's called the surdo drum. Yeah, and it's a Brazilian marching band drum, if I'm not mistaken. I wish he was here. It's late for him, so he's in the Netherlands, so he's 7 hours ahead. I wish he could talk about it because so when I met him, he had seen Zwaremachine, but I saw pictures of him on his social media stuff where he was playing in the street. You know, they play these festivals with his Brazilian style marching band. I don't know exactly what he would call it, but they're percussive groups, and they get together, and his group would always put on like some crazy dark makeup and kind of be the scary group, you know. Everyone else would maybe be colorful and flowery. They were definitely the dark horses in that scene. And he always looked like such a badass when he was doing that. And I said, you know, do you want to play with me sometime? What do you think about joining a band like Zwaremachine? And seemed like he was into it. And the first time I met him after that, and we were like trying to do shows, we rehearsed the very same day, and we went and did a show in France that night. Like, and that's how into it he was. He knew his parts. He knew what he wanted to play. They fit. And when we were in the rehearsal room before the gig, you know, hours before the gig, we were trying to rehearse, figure it out. And I looked over at him then, and he's mouthing the words. I'm like, if this guy knows the words, he's singing the songs, he's pounding his drum. I said, this seems really cool to me. And we totally bonded on that tour also. Like, it was the two of us doing like 4 or 5 shows, and it was just super cool. He just made it more fun than it could ever be.
Wow. See, that's gold right there. That's the stuff that makes the memories when it comes to music, man.
Well, and if we can pull it together, we're
Mhm.
going to have some members from his group join us on stage. That's
Oh, how
something we've
cool.
talked about. You know, we've all been sitting around for 2 years thinking about things. And
Mhm.
we talked about this a long, long time ago, like how we could bring a few more of the members of his percussion group up on stage and really like blow out a song.
Oh, wow. That would be,
So,
can you imagine the power? Wow.
yeah, and that's what I mean. You know, not everyone can fly around the world to see bands, but if you ever
Mhm.
want to see us, you know, we'll be posting about these gigs. And if you want to travel
Yeah.
to Europe and see
Yeah.
us,
Yeah, for
take
sure,
the
man.
chance, because I guarantee we'll bring you something special live.
It certainly sounds like
That's
it.
the goal.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Now, I think, let me see if there's any questions from anybody in the chat. Anybody have a question? No? Questions?
Well, and I see, thanks for people in the chat, about Dynophacy here. That was a hard thing for everyone to go through. We kind of kept it behind the scenes until he felt like making it public.
Right.
And he's still working through a lot of stuff. It's quite a major thing, obviously. So we just keep in touch and keep moving forward.
That's I can't even fathom how big of a fight that is personally, let alone with loved ones, friends. Yeah.
He's super strong, though. I mean, I don't know how he does it, but he's very strong. So he's battling through. We'll get there. We'll get up on stage again.
Something about that drum. Something about that big drum.
It's like a heartbeat.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Pounds. That's it. That's awesome. Oh, here's a question. If you could put together your ideal tour, what would it look like?
Do you mean with other bands, or? I mean, I'm pretty open to playing with anyone. In fact, I like shows too that aren't maybe like, we've got to play some cool festivals in the past that weren't with all electronic bands. I like that kind of variety. Maybe a rock band. I don't know. I mean, bands like, of course, it'd be cool to play with Nitzareb and some of the bands, that I kind of took inspiration from. Alien Sex Fiend.
Oh,
and I don't consider them EBM, but if I was going to pick some classic bands, probably Alien Sex Fiend I would love to play with.
Right.
But I guess the ideal tour is, we did kind of focus on playing shows in Europe. There's a different music culture there that really seemed to quickly catch on to what we were doing. And just the excitement level for bands like us was way different than the vibe we got in the States.
Yeah.
When we did a small tour in the States, we were the promoters. We were doing everything, and it was just hard to get a good crowd. Now, from years past playing in bands, when we would tour, you go back to the same city like 3 times. By the 3rd time, you're starting to build up a crowd. You can't just go there once and expect everyone to know who you are and come out. So
of course,
that's one thing we didn't do with Zwaremachine, because touring in the States is really expensive. So I found out I could put that money that we would lose on tour in the US, I could put that money towards airfare to get the bass player and I over to Europe, hook up with the drummer, and Kitty, our manager, was able to book shows and tour manage us really well, so we could actually make a little money.
Wow.
And not lose money. So my ideal tour is, Central Europe. I would love to go to the UK also. There's added expenses that we're not ready for yet as far as that goes, but I think Central Europe is really great for us. It's fun. We have a place where we can stay, and then we can, kind of drive out from there. We don't have to be on tour with hotels for a week.
Right.
We can
Okay.
kind of go one show at a time and drive home even, because some of those venues are close enough to where we stay.
Okay. Oh, there's another question.
But
Where's your favorite place to play in Europe?
Yeah, I don't know. I've enjoyed every place. The first gig I ever did there, it was a bit of a sound debacle. We got, that a lot of the places are funded by arts councils and
Okay.
volunteers and stuff like that. So we had a younger intern,
Mm-hmm.
and I make it really simple. I dropped four direct lines out. A stereo vocal and a drum line and a synth line. I was doing a solo show at that point, and the kid just could not get it coming through front of house or monitors.
Oh,
we sat through it. It was a brutal nightmare. But there's a place called Nieuwe Noor in Haarlem, and that's a venue in the Netherlands that I guess might be my favorite. It's like you find people just treat you really well there. They get it. The festivals there are well run. I mean, Germany, the festival we played there, they have their sound systems together. They have very professional techs. They have stage hands. They have back lines. I mean, every place has that in the US also, but it just felt like you were treated with a different level of respect.
Right.
And maybe it was just because, maybe I felt like they got the music. The love from the crowd was different too.
Right. Why do you think that is? Any ideas, or it's just a fact?
Because their music culture, their music culture is different. Like, EBM, that electronic music just has a lot longer history there. Like when we had in the US, we had 80s hair metal in the early 80s. They had the first wave of EBM and industrial. So, it's just a music culture thing.
Right.
People just, they understand what an electronic band is all about. And, they don't, I mean, there's as many people who love rock as EBM, I suppose, over there too. But the crowds that we got to play for were just tremendously, I'm thankful that we got to play for them.
Yeah.
It was a thrill.
The kind of crowd that kind of feeds you the energy back. Yeah. Just get you more and more and more excited. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So do we have another one?
So I would say, the Netherlands is great. The Dutch people are really cool too. Like, I have a lot of friends over in Central Europe, and it's cool people, and they travel. They also travel to go see shows. You know what I mean? Like they'll drive 2, 4, 6 hours to go to those festivals and stuff. So you get a different breed of music fan.
Right. They're really motivated. They're there to have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you definitely, for the bands that make it over there from the US, bring your CDs and t-shirts. They'll buy them. They like to get them from the show too, especially now with import taxes and shipping prices are just insane. That's one reason we work with some record labels who have distribution, because that's like, actually, when I look for a record label, that's my main goal is distribution, worldwide distribution.
Okay. There's some tips for anybody listening.
Yep. Find a label with distribution. If they give you free product, that's great too. But, because you don't want to be paying for your own CDs to sell at a show or vinyl or whatever. So if you can get any free product, that's great. And you can negotiate all that, talk to them, have some goals in mind. Don't just take whatever they offer you. I mean, you don't have to.
Wow. Hopefully there's somebody listening that can take something from that, because that's great advice.
I think a lot of people do. A lot of people ask me, they see us doing promo and releasing stuff, and they want to know how to do it. It's not that hard. It takes a little bit of confidence in yourself, and there's an art to it, I suppose, too. But communicating with these people and talking about, is this possible? Or take what they offer you and then maybe try to double it or something. I don't know.
Right.
However you want to do it, but
Yeah.
you don't just have to take, like I usually approach several labels when I'm ready to release something, and I know what I'm looking for, and whoever comes closest to that is usually who I release with. Now maybe we're lucky because we do work hard and do promo. So I think that most labels understand that and see that as a benefit of working with us. But, some of the smaller labels, I should say, in the US that are in the industrial and EBM scene, a lot of them, I know you have to buy your CDs from them, and it's not at cost either.
No.
So that to me, like, I would rather work with a smaller independent label and negotiate rather than get stuck in a deal like that where I'm going to have to pay a hefty price for my own CD to sell on tour.
Right. Yeah. After you just forked out how much money to record it and have it produced and so on and so forth, and take somebody your product, and then they're going to charge you to hand it back to you. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't ever hope to recoup that. It would be nice, but that I look at that as like art supplies. If you're a painter, you're not going to make a painting without the supplies. So production and mixing and mastering, that's all on me. I'm okay with that. And I'm lucky too that I work with some really talented and affordable people. But and everyone, I know you're doing mastering and helping mix a lot of albums too. So a lot of it's just, don't be afraid to communicate with people. I mean, if anyone wants my advice, I'd say reach out to people. The worst that's going to happen is they're not going to reply to your message. And that might not be because anything to do with your talent. That might be their workload, or they don't want to be unsolicited. They don't want to get messages maybe that way, but you're going to meet people who can benefit you to work with. Keep an open mind. And if you hear something you like I like to trade remixes with bands. I don't want to charge people, and I don't necessarily want to buy a remix from someone that I may or may not like. So I always offer up a trade, and then I can reject their remix. They can reject my remix. No hard feelings. But we each put in an effort to do something for each other that way.
That's it. Yeah. It's I guess it's kind of tied to that old adage, you don't ask, you don't get. Right? That's the
exactly. And I get it that not everyone's been in bands their whole life like I have. And I'm confident about Zwaremachine in the sense that I will approach DJs and promote it because I'm confident, but not everyone is that kind of an artist. A lot of people are really not confident, or they're not outgoing socially, and that's a different kind of artist. So and that might benefit you to work with someone who does PR work or a manager. Find a manager and
what are your
if
thoughts
you're not
on
going
the
to go out and
situation?
hustle it up for yourself. If you're not going to hustle it up yourself, you need someone to do it for you.
Exactly. And that becomes the debate, obviously, label, PR, manager. You have any thoughts on somebody that's a bit more shy or introverted socially, has some challenges that way, which you think would be most beneficial for them to look for? Would that, a manager or a good PR rep or a label?
Well, and on that note, even if you are like me, it takes tons of time. I mean, on the average, I probably spend 2 hours a day, not even writing, rehearsing, recording and mixing, but just like staying in contact with people and keeping the, and that comes from my DIY punk days though, the whole do-it-yourself approach. And bands like Husker Du, I think they didn't have a manager for a long time or something like that. They managed themselves, and at some point that gets hard to do. So I'm lucky where I have Kitty, who I consider a member of the band, but with both of us working a couple hours a day, you can see where that's going to get you somewhere, or it's going to benefit you. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah, if you're a band and you're not like me, or you are like me, you got to know, like, and I think everyone does that. I think people I see in the scene work really hard. And then sometimes they get frustrated though, because they see other bands getting to do things or maybe getting noticed. But back to your question, I think working with the manager can be okay. I mean, it's hard to find the right person. Like,
yes,
that's another thing about do it yourself. Yeah, I know what I want usually, and I think about these things. What are my goals? What do I want out of a label? Yep. So don't just randomly approach managers and labels. Like, kind of write up the 3 things why you want a manager. Maybe, do you want them to book you? Do you want them to promote you?
Yeah, what's the goal?
And then there are PR firms where you can pay to, you pay someone to do it. Now, if that's your thing, that's fine. But my advice for that is put in the time. If you can make 2 hours a day or 2 hours a week and focus on that, you can promote yourself. It's hard work, but you can do it. And if you don't, my budget that I would spend on paying a PR person is what I spend on my mixing and mastering, probably. I'm not a credit card kind of band where I want to put something on a credit card and pay it off. If I can't do it now with the money I have in the bank, it's going to have to wait. But like I say, and maybe I'm lucky, I do work with a great studio mix engineer, the studio owner, the Terrarium in Minneapolis. That guy's great. Fortunate. He's been, yeah, exactly. As you know, because you mix, I don't know what your rates are, but it's a time consuming, hard project to mix someone else's music, especially if you're going to take notes from them and make revisions.
This is it, and that's kind of my thing is my goal is to actually help people and not, I get really frustrated because just like yourself, going way back into the punk days, you save up a pile of money over a couple of years scrounging when you're, to try and get a few hours in the studio, like back then when you went to a studio, what have you. And, you get your 10 hours and you try to pump out an album, and whatever comes out is what it is. And it's somebody that didn't know you, doesn't care. And next, it's like flipping burgers, right? And that's the, to get away from that. So no, it's not a lot of money if you're going to do it properly, because it takes a lot of time if you actually care about the musician, and you get their idea and work with them. But that's a whole other thing. But you
and you'll find though a lot of. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was just gonna say you made a really valid point in that working with somebody is very helpful, but you have to make sure that they are doing it because they're invested in you, in your idea, in your creation.
Yeah, if someone's promote a PR person's kind of different. They're just gonna, and hopefully they're good at writing. If they're writing your press release or something, hopefully they're good at it, because everyone can scrounge up the contacts probably if you want to invest that time into it. Yes. And I tell people too, if you're just trying to get your stuff to DJs, take a look at my Zwaremachine page, because I'm always trying to promote the DJ shows that are playing our stuff. So just go down our Facebook feed, contact all those DJs, because that's probably how I met them. So probably. And DJ Scott Duran's on here. He's always open. He's one of the guys championing new music. I mean, I think he told me once too, he just wants to play new stuff. He's not trying to even fit a genre all the time on his shows. And I've seen him expand more into like future pop and stuff that isn't, industrial EBM. So
I've seen him do lots of great stuff,
And there's lots of DJs like that who maybe it's not going to fit in their monthly or weekly set, or it's not going to make it to their live dance floor set in a club, but they're going to listen to it and tell someone, because DJs are passionate about music, as passionate as the bands who make music. So
absolutely,
if it doesn't fit in their set, they're going to turn on another DJ who plays that style.
That's true.
So thanks to all the DJs out there like playing our stuff too.
Yeah,
that's amazing when I see it in playlists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels good because people are hearing you, and I think I don't know. I'm gonna see if I can dig up my remix here. I hadn't planned on doing that, but I thought maybe I'll do it just for when we let you go and everybody.
Oh yeah, you got to feature your remix.
Yeah, just kind of.
And everyone go to the. Well, that's at Mach FoX Bandcamp. We released the Fox Nova project on there because it seemed like a fitting place, and I didn't want to start another page really. But also Craig from Fox Nova Project on Shock Nova, that's his record label. He's been releasing a bunch of remixes of the singles.
Oh, really? Cool.
So you can go over to Shock Nova Bandcamp also and find more versions and remixes of our stuff over there with all his other projects. But yeah, definitely thanks for the Live Evil Productions remix. Oh, man.
So that was a lot of fun, actually. So much fun. Putting all kinds of distortion on the synth, on the sub synth. Yeah, lots of fun. So anybody have any questions on Fox Nova, Mach FoX, Zwaremachine? Final questions. No? Fair enough. I haven't found it yet, so why don't you wrap up with any thoughts you want to put out there and places you want to send people. If you have any, any of your friends that are doing other projects that are involved in Zwaremachine and so forth.
Well, definitely check out Novakill. And I want to say thanks to you and Christopher at EBM Worldwide for taking an interest in the band. It's cool to talk with you guys, and I know you do a lot with a lot of bands, but it just feels good when someone seems to give a shit and they look into your stuff and ask you cool questions and help spread our music. Because even if you see a lot of promo on Facebook, I mean, it's the same people who see that over and over. We're trying to, that was a goal with Conquest 3000 too. With the second album, I said, okay, here's the goal for this. We want a bigger audience, you know, like we got to break out of the EBM industrial Facebook circle and spread it to the world. And I think it worked, I feel like we've got new fans. There's a consistent interest in the band. So definitely, if you haven't heard Zwaremachine, check out the Zwaremachine Bandcamp.
Sure. Must do.
We got a lot of music over there. And then Mach FoX at Bandcamp, if you want to hear some of the other stuff, and you can dig into some older stuff because that's where I experiment more and do some different kind of stuff.
And I want to say thank you for coming in, and I apologize again for that really rough start.
Hey, that's how it goes.
And it's part of the reasons I don't even have this particular one up, because when we came back on, I was just like, just go. That's it.
It's a live show. Yeah. It's live.
Yeah, that's it. So I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that's tuned in. Thank you so much, guys, for coming out and supporting an awesome artist and his many projects and all the people that work with them. So when you're supporting them, you're supporting them and the whole community that's doing this dark underground music. I think it's really important right now that everybody, especially with COVID, everything happening, that we all kind of lift each other up and support each other and get on that wagon. And that's how we all kind of work our way up and get our music out.
Yeah, I'm interested in how the scene comes together after all this, because I think we've all seen what the losses can be and how much we miss it. And there's probably things we can do that we don't know about yet. But I think just the camaraderie, and when shows if we can get back to the way we were before, I think the scene maybe can blossom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, or maybe it's going to be splintered. I can't predict anything, but
yeah,
I appreciate all the support that we've got, and I know there's other bands out there trying to do the exact same thing we're doing. So.
Oh yeah, man. There's so many that you know, can use everybody's support. Great. There's been great artists in the chat. I've been talking to several recently. There's no shortage of great music if you take the time to look for it, man.
Well, who's up? Who's your next interview? Let's plug that.
I
something
coming
cool lined up?
There's a bit of a mixed bag, but coming up I have Fleischkrieg.
Okay.
I don't have the date in front of me, but that's within the next three weeks, and because I'm going to take a bit of a break because I do have a couple of I have a EP I'm doing with Double Eyelid, and I have Diogger, an album with Diogger and a Diogger music video, and some remixes, a number of them. I won't go through the list, but so it's a bit of doing a bit of a balancing act, but basically we're going to be looking to do this once a week.
Whoa, that's going to be heavy schedule.
Yeah, but
once you get in the groove of it, though, if you got a day set aside, I mean, that's how I do it. I have a production list. I have a list, and I go by dates, and not everything like gets knocked out on that day, but at least I have some priorities.
Yep.
That's what we do as independent musicians. We have to manage everything. We have to, do the music. You have to be creative, and you have to be a manager. It's tough to wear all the hats.
Oh yeah.
But good luck to everyone out there doing it. We're doing it.
That's it. It's what makes it's what makes everything work. And when we all work together, So I appreciate that, and because I haven't been able to bring my particular remix up. Like you said, everybody can go and check it out, Fox Nova. I'm gonna leave us and go back through out with Parasol because I have it up handy, and away we go.
Thank you.
Release the